know that feeling? You're facing like a really big learning challenge, maybe prepping for a professional certification.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just staring at this mountain of documents, this huge pile of stuff. You really want to get it, deep down, not just cram facts for a test.
Right. True understanding.
But how do you even start making sense of it all? It feels overwhelming.
It's such a common frustration, that gap between, wanting real comprehension and just passively reading and rereading.
Yeah.
It can be huge.
Exactly. So what if there was a different way? Something beyond just reading.
Right.
Imagine actually engaging with the material, getting instant feedback that helps you see why an answer is right or wrong.
Okay. More interactive.
Yeah. And even being able to easily recall those little insights weeks later. That's sort of the territory we're exploring today.
Sounds interesting.
We've got some really great sources, blog posts, a detailed technical notebook too, all about this fascinating new way to learn, powered by AI.
So our mission for this deep dive then is to really understand how this innovative study assistant works. It's built using Google's Gemini models.
Right.
And it's designed to, maybe revolutionize exam prep. We're going to dig into how it tries to beat the limitations of just reading stuff.
And hopefully find some cool aha moments about the future of learning along the way.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The person who actually created this study assistant, they were in that exact situation.
Preparing for a tough certification.
Yeah, they described it as this mix of excitement, about the future, but also a good amount of panic about just how much they needed to learn.
I think a lot of us can relate to that feeling.
Totally. But their big realization was that the old way, passive studying, just wasn't going to cut it.
Right.
They actually said, and I quote, "You might remember the answer, but do you really understand why it's the right one?"
That's such a critical point. You can memorize, sure.
Yeah.
But genuine understanding, that comes from really grappling with the material.
Yeah.
Questioning it.
And getting feedback.
Exactly. Getting that insightful feedback that clarifies why your thinking might be off. Traditional study often just lacks that interactivity.
You read, maybe highlight something.
But you don't get that back and forth, that explain it to me part that really makes knowledge stick.
So the creator's idea was pretty clever. A Gen AI-powered chatty AI tutor.
Okay, chatty. I like that.
Yeah. The goal was something less like a, dry old textbook and more like having a friendly patient expert guide you through.
And the tech powering, this is where it gets really interesting. It's Google's Gemini model.
Right. Gemini.
Working together with a tool called LangGraph. You can think of Gemini as the intelligent core, the brain doing the understanding, the reasoning, generating explanations, all in a way that feels natural.
Okay, Gemini's the brain. So what does LangGraph do? What's its role?
LangGraph is more like the architect of the conversation. It's a framework specifically for building these complex, multi-step interactions with AI models like Gemini.
So it structures the chat.
Precisely. It lays out how the AI tutor interacts with you, how it gives you a question, what happens when you answer, how it delivers feedback, how the whole learning session kind of flows.
Got it. It organizes Gemini's intelligence into a usable learning path.
Exactly. It makes it a really effective learning experience.
Okay, this is where, for me, it gets really cool. This study assistant has some very clever features, and each one leverages Gemini in a specific way.
Like what?
Well, first, interactive exam practice. And these aren't just simple recall questions. They're designed to be realistic, like the actual exam. They push you to apply what you know.
Okay, so more challenging questions.
Yeah. And then when you answer, maybe you get it wrong, maybe you get it right. Gemini gives you feedback that's tailored to your specific answer.
Personalized feedback.
Exactly. But more importantly, it explains the reasoning behind the correct answer. It doesn't just say, nope, try again.
It tells you why.
Right. It dives into the concepts, helps you see maybe where your logic went astray, and really solidifies the correct understanding.
That's crucial for actual learning, not just checking boxes.
And it doesn't stop there. If you're still confused, you can actually ask follow-up questions, just like you would with a human tutor.
So it's conversational.
Very. One of the blog posts had this great line, "Didn't get it, ask a follow-up. Gemini doesn't roll his eyes or check the time."
It's good. Patience is key.
It's that conversational flow that makes it feel less like a tool and more like a learning partner.
And what about generating those explanations? How does that work?
So for the detailed explanations, the system uses a specific experimental version, Gemini 2.5 Pro, The March 2025 one, apparently.
Okay, 2.5 Pro.
And get this, it can actually tap into Google search.
So it's grounded in current information.
Exactly. It makes sure the explanations aren't just based on potentially outdated training data, but grounded in the latest, most relevant context. Super important for fields that change quickly.
That's a powerful feature.
Yeah.
Ensures accuracy and relevance.
Okay, now this next bit really jumped out at me. The assistant automatically creates structured study notes.
Structured notes. How?
In JSON format. Consistent, machine-readable. It uses another Gemini model for this 1.5 Flash 8B, specifically set up to output data in this structured way.
JSON. Okay, so it's not just free-form text. Why JSON?
Well, the advantage is that predefined structure. It makes sure all the important bits, the questions, topics, learning points, those key explanations are all captured neatly.
So it's organized, like a digital filing cabinet, but automatic.
Exactly. Makes it super efficient for reviewing later. You're not trying to decipher your own messy handwriting from weeks ago.
That solves a common problem. Okay, that's clever.
And then there's the memory aspect. They call it Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG.
RAG, right. I've heard of that.
This tackles that thing where you know you understood something before, but you can't quite remember why.
The why is often the hardest part to recall.
Totally. So the system takes your past chats, your questions, the AI's answers and explanations, and turns them into numerical representations using Gemini's text embedding API. Think of them like unique digital fingerprints.
Vectors.
Exactly, vectors. And these get stored in a special database, ChromaDB.
Okay, a vector database.
So later, when you revisit or ask about something you discussed before, the system can search for similar fingerprints in ChromaDB.
And retrieve the relevant bits of the old conversation.
Precisely. They gave this great example, like asking, what did I say about question 278 again?
And it finds it instantly.
Yeah, without you digging through notes. And for pulling that info back and synthesizing a new answer from it, they used another Gemini version, 2.0 Flash 001.
So it's like having this searchable personal learning history. That's really neat.
It really is. So going back to LangGraph, how does it actually manage all this back and forth with the different Gemini functions?
Right. So LangGraph is essentially the conductor. It manages the state, keeps track of where you are in the conversation, what question you're on, the history.
Keeps everything organized.
Yes. And it defines the flow using nodes and edges.
Nodes and edges. Okay, break that down.
Think of nodes as the different steps or actions in the process, like presenting a question is a node. The chatbot interaction part is another node. Summarizing into notes is another node.
Got it. The distinct stages.
And the edges are the pathways between these nodes. They define how the system moves from one step to the next.
And it's not just linear, right?
Not necessarily. It can use conditional logic. So based on your input, like if you say you understand a topic, an edge might lead directly to the summarization node for that section.
So it adapts.
It adapts the flow, yeah.
So if we visualize the workflow, it's something like question presented.
Then the interactive chat part, you guess, you get the explanation, maybe ask follow-ups.
Then it summarizes those key points into the structured study notes.
And finally, it embeds that whole interaction using the embedding model, ready for future recall via RG.
Okay. And this is the real aha moment for me, this whole system. It's not just Q&A.
No, definitely not.
It's about creating a much deeper understanding because you're actively involved, you get context, you get the reasoning, and you have this built-in memory.
It goes way beyond just passive consumption of information.
It really does. And the creator even mentioned their own journey. Started out feeling overwhelmed, limited experience maybe. But building this tool actually helped them understand the material better and boosted their confidence. Getting things wrong wasn't a failure.
It became an opportunity, a chance to learn more deeply, guided by Gemini's explanations.
Exactly.
A learning opportunity.
So to kind of wrap things up, the real power we're seeing here is this synergy, this combination of Google's sophisticated Gemini models,
The brain.
with these smart orchestration tools like LangGraph.
The architect.
Right. And together, they enable these really dynamic, really personalized learning experiences. This specific study assistant tackles the frustrations of passive learning head-on.
By giving you that interactive practice,
Yeah.
the detailed why behind answers, and that crucial ability to recall your past reasoning.
It's quite a leap forward. It definitely feels like it. Which leads to a final thought, maybe something for our listeners to chew on.
Okay.
How could AI tools like this change the way you learn? How could you move beyond just, absorbing stuff to really engaging with it?
Building that deeper, more lasting understanding.
Yeah. Think about areas where you struggle now, maybe information overload or just remembering things long term.
Could a more interactive, AI-powered approach like this one be the solution you need? Something to think about.